This is another Read Me Something reward for Reich E. Spore's Patreon. We are reading from my Oz-based novel, Polychrome Chapter 48. The next few minutes were a blur. The armies stopped fighting, though some detachments wanted to continue, and would have if both Nimbus and Ruggedo hadn't basically shouted them into obeying. Soldiers came forward and stripped me of my glittering armor and sword, leaving me in the mundane clothes I'd chosen to wear on this, my final day of life, the clothes I'd been wearing the day Polychrome found me and brought me into wonder. The hardest part of it was the shouts and cries from our own army, calling me coward and traitor. Many of them understood the cost of the war, being in the front lines, better than I did, and to them such a hostage situation was intolerable. Even their commanders would have expected them to continue. True, the Rainbow's daughter was unique, but still, many of them felt betrayed. And they had been, in truth, just not in the way they thought. Fortunately, I had much practice in ignoring name-calling from my youth, and I had much more important and pressing worries on me now. Finally they dragged me forth, through the dark corridors of the great castle, and into an immense courtyard within which stood the petrified remains of Ozma's palace. We'd come through the walls and the gray, dead streets of the Emerald City, buried now beneath the stupendous ash-colored pile of masonry which was the gray castle, and I had not been able to restrain a rising look of horror at the hundreds of people caught frozen in the last instants of their lives. Before the dead gray of the palace, a huge open space had been made, cleared from the stony skeleton of the city, and I wondered how many of those people, now statues, had been callously shattered to dust in the work. Around that space there were stands as for some great gladiatorial arena. On one side, sitting just above the entrance to Ozma's palace, was the royal box, a roofed-over observational platform with two thrones to the front and other shadowed places within. There sat Amanita Verdant and Ugu the Unbowed, the usurpers, rulers of Oz. Ugu rose as I was brought in. Unlike Neil's portraits of him, the real Ugu was a man of presence and striking appearance. His voice and face and demeanor reminded me strongly of Christopher Lee's Saruman, as he would have been when younger. The same deep, resonant, commanding tones, the intensity of the gaze, the arrogant patrician look, black hair streaked with white. Amanita rose a moment later, lazily, as though she found all this a play on the stage and not a real event at all. She was as beautiful as rumor had implied, silky waves of leafy green cascading over creamy shoulders, framing a heart-shaped face of perfect symmetry with brilliant emerald eyes, and a body of exquisite perfection. But the smile and glitter of the eyes told me this was a woman at the edge of insanity, or possibly well over it, but with great control. "Welcome to Oz, mortal. Welcome to our domain," Ugu said, and his voice rolled about the Colosseum. "Your deeds have already become a wonder, and perhaps one day will be a legend. A cautionary tale, true, but legend nonetheless." I grinned up at him, feeling at this point there was nothing much for me to lose. "The day is not over yet." "Indeed, but its ending is near, as is yours." He gestured. In the center of the arena I saw a small pyramid, perhaps 6 to 8 feet high, seeming to be made of polished crystal. The sides pulsed with colors that chased themselves around its perimeter, red, yellow, green, blue, violet, and back to red again. Within, I thought I could see a small, motionless figure. Ozma. The pyramid stood at the center of a set of elaborately carven circles, with a curving, four-pointed design reaching to the outer perimeter. At each of these points was another circle, and within that circle stood something monstrous. One a giant of flame and cinder, another a cadaverous, insubstantial monstrosity echoing an eagle from some forgotten age, the third a serpent of oozing liquid corruption, and the last a great misshapen dragon of solid stone. The pyramid itself lay within a perfect circle that just touched each point, and before one face was another circle that just touched the edge of that face. A circle just large enough for me to stand in. "Yet you do have one decision to make, Erik Medon," Ugu went on. "The final ritual, which requires a true mortal, also requires that the mortal cooperate, that while he may be bound, he must have consented to the binding in the ritual." His arms swept around to the stands. While most of the stands were filled with citizens of Oz, soldiers of the armies, and many of the dark elemental fairies, on one side nearest the royal box was another wide platform, taking up many spaces and levels of the stands, with guards ringing the platform. There I could see Polychrome chained and under guard, blades hovering at her throat. Zenga and Ruggedo chained together in such a way that if Zenga were to try to use her strength to break free, she'd have to pull Ruggedo apart, assuming the alert Temblor and Tempest guarding them didn't kill them upon the instant. Nimbus, alone and proud, chained and unable to move. "You will cooperate with the ritual," Amanita said, her voice light and yet penetrating, "or your lovely little friends will be killed, one at a time, in front of you. Careful. I have to make this convincing. And what possible assurance do I have that you won't kill them as soon as you've finished your ritual?" Ugu nodded. "A fair question. In truth, you have no assurance, mortal. All that can be offered for the future are promises, and promises can be broken. Yet there are those whose promises have value and those who do not, and I, Ugu the Unbowed, would give you my word that this will not happen." "Not good enough." The guards tightened their grip on Polychrome, and I raised my hand. "Wait. Just letting them live is not enough. They could mean as slaves or prisoners of your domain for all time. If I participate in this ritual, which your words indicate will kill me, then I want more." Amanita glared at me, but Ugu nodded. "Speak, then. What more do you ask?" "That they go free. You send them home. All of them. All the remaining armies, our allies, and my friends up there. Without me, they couldn't penetrate the Great Barrier, you know that. So they're no threat to Oz once you've sent them away. Yes, that means they'll not be entirely defenseless against you. So now you make a choice, Ugu. How valuable is this ritual to you and the Queen? Do you gain enough from it that this will be worth it? For that is the price for my cooperation." I looked at my friends and finally at Polychrome. Enough people have died for this. I would be the last. For a long moment, Ugu gazed down at me, gauging my resolve. Then he nodded. "So be it. You have my word." "No!" To my surprise, it was both Amanita and Polychrome speaking almost in unison. Polychrome's I'd expected. There was a short, heated exchange of whispers between the two rulers. "Erik, our lives are not worth this. You cannot let them do this." There was an earnestness, an intensity in her voice that brought a stinging lump to my throat. This was not just an act to convince them. "She doesn't want me to die. We all knew the price." As she said that, Ugu gestured sharply, finishing the conversation, though from Amanita's expression, I doubted very much whether she was done or would abide by his decision for long. "Enough, my Queen. For our purposes this will serve very well. The mortal is correct. If this we accomplish, all their victories here are naught but hollow boasts, empty of any meaning save the cold comfort their contemplation might bring in the darkest hours of the night. While by this bargain we seal his obedience as well. For know well, Erik Medon, that true mortal though you are, here in this place, at the centre of all faery, if this bargain you make, to it you are held by fate and law." He looked down, fixing me with his dark gaze, and in those eyes I saw more than the mere tyrant I had expected. "So choose, and choose wisely. Will you swear to co-operate with this ritual, to struggle not against us, and allow it to be completed, if I, in turn, swear to you that I shall not merely spare your friends' lives, but to return them without further harm to their homes, so long, I will add, as they offer me and mine no further resistance?" I looked up and saw Zynga shaking her head, so furious or upset she could say nothing. Ruggedo's face as expressionless as stone, Nimbus's eyes closed, body tensed, and Polychrome's storm-violet eyes wide and filled with tears that could not be mere acting. "My friends, Polychrome, I'm sorry. I've talked about how a hostage situation is intolerable, about how you can never yield to it, or you give those who use those methods permission to use it again, but now, faced with it, I know it doesn't matter what I think. I can't do it. I can't let those I care about die in front of me when a word from me will save them." I kept my eyes focused on the one face that mattered to me more than anything in the world, or beyond it. "Yes, I make this bargain, King Ugu," I said, using for the only time his title, "because even my death is a very small price to pay, if only she is safe." I said it. Maybe not as directly as I would have liked, but this is no time or place for that. Her eyes went even wider, and her hand went to her mouth as Ugu said, "So be it. They shall be witnesses, and then sent to their homes, all of them, their armies and servitors alike. It is done." I felt a shock of something in that pronouncement, and knew the bargain was sealed, even as Ugu turned to Emanita and bowed. "My queen, the ritual of transcendence awaits your pleasure."